Okay, we're continuing. This is part 5 of How the Scots Invented the Modern World by Arthur Herman. Now we're going to start talking about some of the intellectuals. Again, this all came out of in the 1600s. They decided we need to educate the Scottish people. Schools put the emphasis on reading the Bible, and all of a sudden they started producing all these smart men, a literate society, and then a bunch of geniuses. Okay, this is Lord Kames, also known Henry Home, and he was this big scholar of a lot of things. Sort of a polymath guy. Real successful working in agriculture, linen factory production, stimulating the economy. He was studying anthropology. He had his own theories about the cycle of civilizations, and kind of a cyclical theory that reminds me of, Giambattista, and it reminds me of the painting also, Thomas Cole and all that stuff. And he was an advisor to Adam Smith for Wealth of Nations and a bunch of other famous Scottish people at that time. Okay? He said the reason for laws is to get people to not mess with private property. That's the main reason for laws. Okay, now here is Adam Smith. And Adam Smith got known kind of as the expert on capitalism. And now I think that's a little bit of an overstatement because the Catholic Church invented capitalism, about a century before that through all its trade. But he's the guy who put it all together in a book in the context of the Industrial Revolution, which was happening in England and in Scotland. And he saw how when a factory specializes in one thing, they can produce more, faster, cheaper. So he called that the division of labor or specialization. He also talked about the invisible hand of self-interest. When everybody is working for their own self-interest, they actually end up helping each other because in a capitalist economy, you're rewarded for good effort. Like if you own a restaurant, if you provide good food and good service, more people will come at a fair price. More people will come to your restaurant. If you have a good product, more people will buy your product for the price. So that's what he said. He says it all creates a win-win. This is, in opposition to sort of a managed economy where there's price fixing and stuff. Like if you go to a communist country, they'll say, well, maybe you've got a $10,000 budget for the month. And if you have a fixed budget for the month, then you don't want to be nice to your customers. The ruder you are, the less service you provide, the less money you have to spend from that budget. The perfect month would be 0 customers and keep the full 10,000. So that's what I'm trying to say is capitalism rewards good effort and rewards good service versus other forms of economics do not. Ayn Rand also said laissez-faire capitalism is the best. There's nothing even close. Milton Friedman said the same thing. It's the only thing that works. Ayn Rand said it's the only thing that can lead to freedom for mankind, freedom and prosperity is capitalism. Everyone should know that. Anybody who tells you otherwise is a liar. This is well known. It's been proven over and over and over again. And if you don't know that, your education is poor and you should educate yourself, okay? And then you're part of the problem in society, which unfortunately a lot of people are. If the public is so stupid, basically the attitude of the elites is, look, if you're stupid, you deserve to be treated badly. Okay? I mean, it means you're not worthy of good treatment. If you're that stupid, then the world's better off without stupid people, so, go die. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is the rich, powerful people, they don't care about the pros. Their attitude is, look, if you get your act together, you can survive, okay, fine, we don't care. But if you're a dummy and you do stupid stuff and you get sick and you ruin your life, too bad. You're stupid. You deserved it. Okay, I'm just trying to say is the world's not a friendly place. And that's why you want to get educated so you'll be able to make better choices and you'll have a better chance at maintaining your health. Most health problems just come from eating bad food and doing stupid stuff like not filtering your water, drinking alcohol, or smoking cigarettes, stupid stuff like that. You just avoid those things and you can usually do pretty well. There's obviously more to it than that. So anyways, this is the great Adam Smith and his book, The Wealth of the Nations. Here is the book itself, The Wealth of the Nations, The Invisible Hand, the Summa of the Scottish Enlightenment. Okay, and one thing I'm going to say too, I don't like that term enlightenment. That's an evil, dishonest term coming from the French atheists like Voltaire, Rousseau, Diderot. Okay, these scumbags tried to pretend that they in the 1700s are what made mankind go forward with science and everything else, and that the Middle Ages backward Christians had held things back. But the reality is, all along, Christian scientists and Christian monks had been doing all the innovation work, all the scholarship, had preserved all the books of the ancient Greeks and Roman and Aristotle and the Bible, and developed all this knowledge, developed all the cathedral schools, the universities, the centers of scholarship, the communication between scholars all in the universal language of Latin throughout Christendom. It all came from them, and they did all the precursor work that led up to Isaac Newton and the other famous scientists, and they were all devoutly religious, almost every single one of them. So what I'm trying to say is, these guys, these atheist scumbags, Voltaire, Diderot, Rousseau, and then Edward Gibbon, the scumbag English guy who wrote Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, these atheist guys, they didn't do any science. Not at all. Not one little bit. Okay? So, anyways, here's another Scottish guy named Witherspoon, a pastor, who was recruited to the USA, to New Jersey, to be the head guy of Princeton University. They wanted him to make Princeton University the best university in the world, like Edinburgh, okay, in Scotland, okay? So he was very good about doing what it takes to make a university good. He promoted free speech. He, every week, he invited lectures on all manner of topics. He encouraged open debate. The typical curriculum was you had to learn about the Greeks, you had to learn about the Romans, learn the Latin language, the Greek language, rhetoric, history, science, okay? I'm a big believer in that. I think all students should learn about the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans. They should all learn rhetoric, so you learn how to speak effectively. They should all study history in the context of great men, not on dates. Dates are forgettable. Great men are memorable. Okay, he was a signer of the USA Declaration of Independence. And, men like him made the USA universities the best of any country in the world. When the USA universities were Christian, they were the best in the world. Now that they're becoming atheist, they're becoming a joke. Okay, everybody knows the USA universities have become a joke. Once you go atheism, whatever little political trend comes along, oh, we don't know the difference between a man and a woman. Yeah, right. There's no limit to how stupid they can be, and there's no limit to how conformist they be. All the professors are hired because they're conformist and stupid, so they're only going to get more conformist and stupid. And when somebody comes along that's smart and innovated, they're going to say he's an asshole, he's patriarchal, misogynist, or some other BS, and they're not going to allow any scholarship. That's why, look around. There's been zero progress in, since I've been alive, zero progress. And what is this, over 50 years in diabetes, hypertension, obesity, simple problems to solve, coronary artery disease. There's all these fake treatments, but there's nothing that really works except, the low-fat vegan diet, and that's, kept hidden from everybody. Okay, here's another one of these smart Scottish guys. This one is Joseph Black. He was a physicist and a chemist. He discovered carbon dioxide and magnesium, several other things. He's into all the physics of concepts like specific heat, latent heat, and all this, foundational work in the physics of heat. So anyways, I just show you that this is the kind of guys that were coming out of Scotland, top-notch physicists and chemists, okay? And it all came out of reading the Bible. Once you start reading the Bible, your brain gets turned on, and now you want to read everything else, okay? And you leave them alone, you let them read, you let them study, you let them tinker with whatever they want. I'll show you, here's another guy, another typical Scottish genius. James Watt from Scotland, inventor of the steam engine, okay? You take a smart guy. You want to see progress in society, here's what you do. You get smart men and you tell them, just work. Here's some money, just work. Study whatever you want, just work. You can hire them in the field that you want. If you're looking for a physics improvement, hire a bunch of physicists. But let them work on whatever they want, like Bell's Labs used to do. You'll have the most rapid progress. But if you start with all this bullshit, we have to hire one Chinaman, we have to hire one minority, we have to hire one dwarf. Could you imagine, pro baseball, pro football, pro basketball, pro wrestling, any sport, if they told them half your staff has to be women, half your staff has to be foreigners, half your staff has to be all kinds of things? No, you should say, I don't care what color, shape, or size they are. I want the people who perform the best in this field. Then you will have the best performing team. And you have to give them freedom that they can contradict the paradigm. That's why they're there, is to challenge the paradigm and come up with something new. But you have to allow that. And because that's not allowed in the modern corporate atheism has taken over science, that's why there's been almost no advancement. There's all these fake corporate paid for advertising journal articles, but there's like next to nothing happening that really benefits patients. There's incremental improvements, micro improvements through the technology. The CAT scan machines keep getting better and better, but you have to know what to do with the patient. Okay? But it is true. The CAT scan machines got better. The MRI machines got better. The ultrasound machines got a little bit better. But that's not where most disease is. That can be a wonderful lifesaver in certain rare situations. But all the patients, for the most part, have the same disease. Hypertension, prediabetes, diabetes, feeding into atherosclerosis, plugging up all the arteries of their brain, their spine, their eyes, and everywhere else. Anyways, this is it for this section on the Scots. I hope you found it helpful.